Empire.
The NFL's 100th season ends in a bang. This is the Football Jones Podcast. What's up, everybody? Thanks for coming back for another episode. I hope you caught that exciting Super Bowl finish last night. Kansas City Chiefs rallying to beat the 49ers. We're going to break it all down with two guests, Mark Maske of the Washington Post and Kimberley Martin of Yahoo Sports. Got it all coming right here. So let's get to it. All right, here we are. As I said, a special Super Bowl wrap-up edition. I've got two of my good buddies, Mark Maske and Kimberley Martin. How are you guys doing?
Good morning, Mike.
Hello, Mike. We're tired.
Yeah, we're very tired. We got back from the game around, at least I did, like 3-something, Kimmy 3-something. What time did you get to bed?
3:30, I think.
Yeah. The glamorous side.
Yes, it is.
Of this job.
Of sports writing.
Yeah, exactly. We're on our way to the airport for our flights home.
Literally taping this podcast in an Uber. That's how committed Mike Jones is to the Mike Jones.
And we have our nice Uber driver here. How you doing, sir?
Good, how are you?
Either that or that's how forgetful Mike Jones was not to do it in the press box last night. One of those.
Yeah, that's how half asleep I was after that game last night. And my mind was just scrambled because it was such a great game. So Maske, first off, what was your takeaway? What did you write about last night? And then what did you think of the Super Bowl?
I just thought it was the greatness of Patrick Mahomes, and we didn't see it for 3 quarters, and then we saw it in the fourth quarter. We saw, they get going with that long 3rd and 15 completion to Tyreek Hill, and from there we saw the Chiefs' offense, and we saw the Patrick Mahomes that we expected to see. We wondered if it would be neutralized by the San Francisco pass rush, and then that was the case for 3 quarters. And then for the rest of the game, for that fourth quarter outburst, we saw the Patrick Mahomes who has become the face of the NFL, who's become the guy who's going to carry this league going forward into the future. And we saw what could be the next dominant AFC team over the next 10 years or more. I mean, we saw the beginning of what could be the dominance of Patrick Mahomes of the NFL to me.
Yeah, it was pretty impressive. And, I felt like there was the Chiefs were going to win, but I thought maybe there'd be some hairy moments, and I thought he would just be able to elevate them. But I have to tell you, I was looking at that game, and I was writing Kyle Shanahan-focused story as my assignment, and 3 or 4 times I thought, oh, you know what? Kyle's going to get this thing. But then the way they pulled it out at the end there in that fourth quarter, 21 unanswered points. Mahomes, I think he was like 7 for 9 or for 100-something yards. And, just really impressive. Kim, what did you take away?
Well, going into the game, I actually picked the 49ers, and I thought defense would triumph. And I understand Patrick Mahomes is a wizard. He's a magician. I get all that. I thought that the 49ers front would get after him, which they did. They sacked him 4 times. The X factor to me was going to be Jimmy Garrapollo. And coming into this game, he had to be what everybody thought he wasn't, right? He had to be a guy that didn't have to be like Patrick Mahomes, but he just had to be clutch in a big moment consistently, right? Yeah. And he wasn't. He was the weak link, in my opinion, which is what the narrative was all season. He had that deep throw to Emmanuel Sanders. You're thinking, oh, shoot, is this the moment that the 49ers come back and take the lead? And no, he overthrew him. And then he gets sacked on 4th down, and you're like, okay. Just watching him, spin like a top as Frank Clark takes him down, you're just thinking, like, the moment seemed a little bit too big for Jimmy. And I think you can there's equal blame all around. This was a total failure on the 49ers' part. This was a total just collapse. And not just Kyle is to blame, not just Jimmy, just everything didn't work.
Yeah, I agree with you. And Kyle Shanahan is going to get a lot of blame. All week long, he was asked about 28-3, the collapse with the Atlanta Falcons, what he had learned from that. He talked about, judging himself really hard, but he knew there was nothing he could do about it, just being ultra aggressive and everything like that. And amazingly, his criticism in Atlanta was that he was all aggressive, didn't work to control the clock and field position. And this game, he was too conservative. I thought the thing that really hurt them was at the end of the second quarter, when they had tied the score 10-10, they got to stop, had an opportunity to go and take the lead into halftime, and Kyle lets the clock click down from 90 seconds to 59 seconds. They just run the ball, like not really trying to move downfield until too late. And he said that it was because he didn't want to give Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes chance to have the ball at the end of the half, even because they had 3 timeouts, and just he felt like a tie was good for the halftime. And I think that complacency really hurt him there. And like you said, the moment was too big for Jimmy Garapollo. Maske, were you surprised with Kyle's play calling?
I was. I mean, I sort of contrast it when we saw the Ravens play the Chiefs. And I know that game was in Kansas City. I know it was a regular season game, so different circumstances. But when we saw the Ravens play the Chiefs, we saw them take that approach where they went for every fourth down. They went for all those two-point conversions, and they just felt the need to maximize every scoring chance because they knew that at some point in the game that Mahomes was going to score some points on them. And in contrast to that, we saw Kyle Shanahan, really rely on his defense to try to win the game for him. And obviously that was a very good defense all season, but you are going against Patrick Mahomes, and at some point he's going to put some points on the board. So you mentioned the sequence at the end of the first half where they let the clock tick by. They really aren't even trying to score, and they're trying to go into halftime 10-10. Now, they did take the one shot down the field with Kittle that could have gotten them some points if not for the offensive pass interference call. But then you also go to the third quarter where he kicks the field goal instead of going for the 4th and 2, where I thought, to me, even that one was more glaring, because in the first half you can say, okay, they were backed up in their own territory to start that possession, and if you go 3 and out quickly, you give them a chance with the ball in good scoring position. The one in the third quarter, to me, 4th and 2, the kind of game you're in, you're going, yes, it is a 10-10 game at that point, and you've held Mahomes down to that point, but you have to figure at some point he's going to get it on track and put some points on the board. To me, I think the 4th and 2 was the one where they really should have been a lot more aggressive.
Yeah, you're right.
What does that say? What does that say about Kyle Shanahan's trust in Jimmy? Does it say anything at all?
I think it does. He'll probably say no,
right.
But I think that it absolutely does because, he had thrown the interception at that point, and then they ran the ball to get their rhythm going again, but he just didn't trust that he either wasn't going to turn the ball over, which we saw him late in the game in the closing minutes do again, or he didn't know that they were going to pick up a first down, which is amazing to me because they had that mindset of, look, we're going to run the ball until you stop us, and we're going to run some more. And coming into that game, and they didn't really have the same type of style. But again, the other thing that was just a little surprising was their defense. And Kimberley, I know you wrote about Robert Saleh and his mottos and everything like that. What do you think happened to their defense in that fourth quarter?
I just think, Kyle Shanahan, when he got to the podium, he mentioned how, the Chiefs, they're kind of streaky. This year they've come out in spurts where they put up points, and then there are lulls. And so you kind of saw that early in the game, and you thought, okay, the 49ers defense is holding its own. I just wonder if this unit, at the end of the day, this unit is asked to do a lot. And I think as much as they gave up 21 unanswered points, to me, I just look at the offense. That to me is the question. Like you can't ask this group to do everything. There has to be, somebody else has to step up, and it should be your quarterback who can say, okay, in this moment, I've got to get this first down, or the head coach has to be we need you to get this 4th and 2. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Exactly. And again, like you said, asking a lot of a defense, having to get back out there. They had 2 punts, a turnover on downs, and an interception. is how the 49ers offense did in the fourth quarter. And, it's natural that these guys might have worn down a little bit down the stretch.
And the flip side of that is what Kansas City did on defense down the stretch. And remember, for the last few years, we've talked about that defense as being the thing that was going to keep the Chiefs from being a championship level team. And we saw even at the beginning of this year, that was our concern about the Chiefs. And then, so the second half of the regular season, we saw that defense kick in. That's when they became a team that you looked at as a team that could be in this game and win this game. And again, we didn't necessarily see it early from the Kansas City defense last night, but as the game wore on, and in that fourth quarter during that comeback, they made some stops. They got the ball back to Patrick Mahomes and the offense. They gave the offense a chance to be in a role. They kept the Chiefs in the game to that point, and they got some key stops down the stretch, generated those 2 interceptions of Garapollo. So, again, these to me were, by the end of the year, because of the emergence of that Kansas City defense, were the 2 most complete teams in the NFL. Yeah. And obviously we knew that the greatness of Mahomes, and we knew the explosiveness of that Kansas City offense, but this didn't become a championship team until the defense improved, and we saw that defense improvement really come to the forefront during that fourth quarter comeback.
Yeah, and like you said, I think that this very well could propel the Chiefs to be, that power in the AFC, the power in the league going forward. I mean, Patrick Mahomes, Deshaun Watson, people have called him, the closest thing to Michael Jordan in the league. But, man, the way that Patrick Mahomes took over, willed his team to victory down the stretch, I think he's, he might be it. And if they string together a number of Super Bowls, there won't be any question there. It's going to be interesting to see. But what do you think, Kimberley, is going to happen to this 49ers team? Do you think they can bounce back, or do you think that this might be something that sticks with them for a little bit?
Oh, yeah, this is going to stick with them for a while. Because the thing that, I was there when the Ravens lost in their championship game. And, those guys talked about how the locker room is never the same. That's the thing, that whenever you come to the end of the road, you realize that the locker room's not the same. The coaching staff might not be the same. I think, Kyle talked last night about how this team pretty much will stay intact, but there are always going to be changes. Yeah. There always are. So when you have a team that has a 3-headed monster at tailback, when you've got a team that's got this kind of incredible defense that's playing so well, when you've got George Kittle playing out of his mind, these are the seasons that you have to capitalize on. And when you don't, it's even more crushing. So, yes, will they bounce back? I believe so, just because the talent is there. But there are going to be changes this offseason. And I wonder if, it sounds like I'm killing Jimmy G. This is his first full season since the ACL. So I understand, this guy hasn't been a starter for that long. Yeah. But he's got to take the next step and prove that, he's not the weakest link on this team.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I was there in training camp and talked to Kyle, and he kind of felt like this was going to be one of those work your way back in, take your lumps type of year for Jimmy Garrapollo. I think that he exceeded a little bit of expectations, but it definitely he was good for an interception or 2 a game. And that fourth quarter there, as we've said, the moment was too big. I think it was, he had 2 completions out of 11 attempts, and the interception, and just an awful passer rating. So, yeah, I think it's going to hinge on him if they can take steps forward. What do you think, Maske?
For the 49ers, I think the first thing you see is the leadership structures in place. I think there's reason now to trust Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch together, obviously being able to assemble a Super Bowl caliber team and doing it, relatively quickly. I mean, we saw them get here in year 3, and probably quicker than we would have thought after the way things started in the first 2 years, and missing almost an entire year of Garoppolo after the trade. So you have to trust in them and the leadership structure that this is going to be a team at least with possibilities as long as they're there together. And yes, they traded for Garoppolo to be the franchise quarterback, and we haven't really seen him, sort of play consistently at the level of a franchise quarterback yet. Yes, he got them here, but that was on the strength of their defense and running game. I think when you look at these two teams, and you always look at teams get to the Super Bowl and say, oh, this is a team has a chance to be a team that gets here over and over. Well, for Kansas City, we say that because that will be the case as long as Mahomes is there. And whatever team Mahomes is on, if he ever were to go to a different team, we would say that of Mahomes' next team, that they're always going to be a team that has a chance. Well, it's a more delicate balance for the 49ers. And yes, that becomes the case for them if Garapollo takes the step to actually be a franchise quarterback and play consistently at that level. But until we see that, we can't say that the 49ers with him are going to be a team that's going to be in that hunt year after year.
Yeah, and as the Rams showed us this year, that Super Bowl hangover is indeed real, and you can take steps backwards. It's like you said, Kimberly, that it's probably is going to stick with them a little bit. Well, I appreciate you guys' time and insight on Little Sleep. Tell them, Kimberly, where they can find you.
You can find me on Twitter by Kimberley A and on Yahoo Sports.
All right, and Mark?
On Twitter at Mark Maske, and Washington Post, washpost.com. Go to sports, and you'll see plenty today, and hopefully not as much in the weeks to come.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know about you guys, but I want to go underground and rest up a little bit. Until the combine, yeah. I do have a story later on in the week. I got to look ahead to the quarterbacks and free agency, but hopefully after that I can just tap out for a little bit. But again, thanks for listening for another episode of the Football Jones podcast. Read me at usatoday.com. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at @ByMikeJones. And hope you guys have a great day. I will talk to you soon.